The VIP section was supposed to be the safest place in the club. Soft lighting, leather, seats, private tables, a place where people believed nothing bad could happen. But danger doesn't care about price tags. The music played low and steady, not loud enough to drown conversation, just enough to make people relax. Too relaxed, the biker noticed her before she noticed him. She sat at the edge of the VIP booth, not leaning back like the others. Her posture was stiff, alert. A drink sat in front of her. Untouched, condensation slid slowly down the glass, collecting on the polished table. She kept staring at it, not with desire, with doubt. The biker stood near the bar, his leather vest catching the dim light. Gray beard, calm eyes. He wasn't there to party. Men like him rarely were. He had learned long ago that places filled with comfort were often where people stopped paying attention. The girl looked no older than her early 20s, too young to already look that tired. She lifted the glass slightly, brought it close to her lips, then stopped. Her hand trembled. She set it back down. That was the moment the biker knew something was wrong. People don't stop mid-sip unless their instincts are screaming. He didn't rush over. He waited, because panic scares people into silence. A man leaned in close to her, laughing too loudly, saying something she didn't respond to. Another slid into the booth beside her. Too close, her shoulders tightened. She whispered something. The men laughed again. The biker took a slow step closer. Not aggressive, not obvious, just close enough. The girl's eyes met his for half a second, and in that half second, she made a decision. She pushed the glass slightly toward him. Her voice barely carried over the music. "They drugged my drink." The words were quiet, but they hit like a gunshot. The biker didn't react the way movies would. He didn't yell, he didn't grab anyone. He looked at the glass, then at her hands, shaking, then at the men around her, smiling, and something old and dangerous settled behind his eyes. A pause and a question for Yubi, for this story continues. Let me ask you something. If you had noticed what he noticed, if you had seen a drink untouched, a young woman afraid to speak loudly, would you have stayed? Or would you have told yourself it wasn't your business? Take a moment. Really think about it, and when you have your answer, leave it in the comments, because moments like this don't test strength. They test attention. The biker pulled out a chair and sat down across from her. .com uninvited. One of the men frowned. "You lost, old man?" The biker didn't look at him. He looked at the girl. "You feel dizzy?" he asked. She nodded. "My head feels heavy," she whispered. "I only took 2 sips. The biker reached for the glass, didn't smell it, didn't taste it. "Just look, sometimes you don't need proof, you need pattern." He slid the glass to the edge of the table. Out of her reach, the man across from him leaned forward. "Hey," he snapped, "that's hers." The biker finally looked up. His voice was quiet. "Not anymore." The air in the VIP section shifted. People nearby started watching. The men straightened. One of them laughed nervously. "Relax," he said. "You're overreacting." The biker stood up slowly. "So are ambulances," he replied. "Until they're not." The girl's breathing grew shallow. "I didn't know who to tell," she said softly. The biker nodded. "You told the right person. If this moment made your chest feel tight, if it reminded you of someone you care about, then say something. Say anything in the comments, because silence is exactly what people like them depend on. And stories like this are told so that silence doesn't win." The men exchanged looks. One of them stood up. "You should leave," he warned. The biker didn't move. "So should you," he said calmly. And that's when the biggest mistake was made. One of them reached for the girl's arm. The moment the man's hand moved toward her arm, the sound in the VIP section changed. The music was still playing. People were still laughing. But something invisible had shifted. The hells. Angel didn't raise his voice. He didn't shove anyone. He simply placed his hand between the man and the girl. Firm one, maybe. "Danto." He said one word low enough that only the table could hear it. The man froze for a second. Just a second. That hesitation told the biker everything he needed to know. Because innocent. People don't hesitate when accused. They laugh it off. They explain. They don't stop mid-motion, the man scoffed, trying to recover his confidence. You're making a scene, he said. This is VIP. The biker nodded slowly. That's what worries me. The girl sat very still now. Her hands were clenched in her lap, her breathing shallow. She looked smaller somehow, not weak, just overwhelmed. The biker turned slightly toward her. Stay seated, he said gently. You don't owe anyone anything. Those words landed hard, not just on her, on the entire table, because people like these men survive, on one thing more than anything else. Pressure. One of the other men leaned back and laughed too loudly. You always get this dramatic over nothing? The biker didn't answer him. He picked up the glass instead, held it at eye level. The liquid inside barely moved, untouched. How many sips did she take? I asked calmly. The girl swallowed. 2, she said. Maybe less. The biker nodded, double quotes, and now you feel dizzy. She nodded again. The biker placed the glass back on the table, but far away from her. That drink doesn't go anywhere, he said. Neither does she. The men exchanged glances. They were no longer smiling. One of them stood up. You think you're some kind of hero? He sneered. The biker met his eyes. No, he replied. I think you're nervous. That was when the room truly went quiet. Not silent, quiet. People in nearby booths had stopped pretending not to watch. A waitress slowed as she passed. A security guard near the rope glanced over, curious now. The men felt it. Eyes witnesses. One of them tried to shift the tone. She probably just drank too fast, he said. People exaggerate. The biker leaned in slightly. So do men who know they're being watched. The girl's voice shook as she spoke again. I asked them to stop, she said. They laughed. That was it. That sentence. It wasn't loud. But it was enough. The biker straightened. Did you hear her say no? He asked the men. No one answered. Because the answer didn't matter anymore. Pause. And this is I am. Poor intent. Let me ask you something. Honestly, if this was your daughter, your granddaughter, someone you love, would you call this nothing? Or would you be grateful that someone stayed? Write your answer in the comments. Even one word is enough, because stories like this change nothing if we keep pretending they're rare. The biker gestured toward the edge of the table. You're all stepping back, he said calmly. One of the men scoffed. Or what? The biker didn't answer right away. He looked around the VIP section, at the watching faces, at the security guard, at the girl, whose eyes never left his, or the truth gets very loud, he said. That's when the first man made his mistake. He grabbed the glass hard. The liquid sloshed over the edge, and the biker moved. Not fast, not violent, just enough. He took the glass from the man's hand and set it down firmly. No more, said the security guard started. Walking over, the men's confidence collapsed all at once. One of them muttered, This didn't have to happen. The biker looked at him steadily. It already did, he said. The moment you counted on her staying quiet, the girl's shoulders finally relaxed just a little. Because for the first time that night, someone believed her. If you've ever stayed quiet when you shouldn't have, if you've ever wished someone had stepped in, say it, share it, even anonymously. Because silence protects the wrong people, and speaking even here, even now matters more than you think. The security guard reached the table, slowly, deliberately, not running, not panicking, because by the time security walks calmly, they already know something is wrong. He looked at the biker first, not the men. That alone said everything. What seems to be the problem? The guard asked. The biker didn't answer right away. He turned to the girl. Tell him, said gently. In your own words. The girl hesitated. Old habits die hard. Fear doesn't leave all at once. Her voice was quiet, but steady enough. I think something was put in my drink, she said. I feel dizzy. And I didn't even drink it. The guard's expression changed. Not surprise. Concern, he looked at the glass on the table, then at the men. Is that your drink? One of the men shrugged. She ordered it. He said quickly. We were just sitting together. The biker leaned slightly toward the guard. She stopped drinking it, he said, because her instincts told her to. The guard nodded. He had heard this before. Too many times. Nobody touch anything. The guard said. The VIP section grew quiet again. Not the relaxed quiet of comfort, the sharp quiet of attention. Phones were no longer out for fun. They were out to record. Witnesses multiply fast when truth enters the room. The guard signaled to another staff member. Get the manager, I said, and call medical. One of the men stood up abruptly. This is ridiculous, he snapped. We paid for this table. The biker finally looked at him fully. His voice never rose. You paid for privacy, he said, not silence. That sentence spread through the room faster than the music ever could. The manager arrived, breathless. He looked from the girl, to the glass, to the men, to the biker. What's going on? He asked. The guard answered instead. Potential drink tampering. We're shutting this section down. The manager didn't argue. That told everyone something important. A moment to ask yourself, if you were there that night, would you have been one of the people watching quietly, or one of the people pretending not to notice? Be honest, and if the answer makes you uncomfortable, that's not a bad thing. Write what you felt in the comments. Discomfort is often where change begins. The girl was guided carefully to a chair away from the table. Someone brought her water this time. Sealed, she drank slowly. Her color was still pale, but her hand shook less now. One of the men leaned toward the biker. His voice dropped. You don't know what you're doing, he muttered. You're ruining the night. The biker looked at him calmly. No, he replied. You did? I just stopped it from getting worse. Medical staff arrived. Questions were asked. Times were noted. Security. Cameras were checked. The men were asked to stay seated. That's when panic truly set in, because when cameras roll back, stories fall apart. One of the men whispered angrily. She didn't even drink it. The biker heard him. That's the point, said quietly. The manager returned. His face was tight now. Gentlemen, he said, you're all leaving the VIP section. One of them laughed nervously. You can't do that. The manager didn't smile. I just did. Security stepped closer. The music faded. Lights brightened. And suddenly, the VIP section looked exactly like what it was. Just a room. No power. No protection, just people. The girl watched as the men were escorted away. She didn't smile. She didn't celebrate. She just exhaled deeply, like someone who had been holding their breath for far too long. She looked at the biker. If you hadn't stayed, she whispered. He shook his head. You stayed, he corrected. I just stood nearby. If you've ever trusted your instincts and been told you were overreacting, if you've ever stayed quiet because it was easier, this is your place to speak. Leave a comment, even a single sentence, because every story like this survives on witnesses. And tonight, you're one of them. The VIP section was empty now. Ropes. Tables cleared. The illusion was gone, and one quiet. Decision to pay attention had changed everything. The club didn't feel the same anymore. The lights were brighter now. Not warm, not flattering, bright enough to reveal faces the way daylight does. Honestly, the VIP section sat empty, ropes hanging loose, while tables wiped clean, as if nothing had happened. But everyone there knew something had happened. The girl sat near the bar. A paramedic knelt beside her, speaking softly, asking simple questions. Her answers came slowly. She wasn't confused anymore, just tired. The biker stood a few steps away. Arms relaxed at his sides. He didn't hover. He didn't interfere. He knew when to step in and when to step back. A police officer entered the club, followed by another. No sirens, no urgency. That calm told its own story. Serious situations don't need noise. The officer spoke first to the manager, then to security. Then his eyes moved to the girl. Ma'am, he said gently, can you tell me what happened tonight? The girl took a breath. This time, she didn't look down. I ordered a drink, she said. I took 2 sips. Then I felt wrong. She paused. I didn't want to seem dramatic, she added. so I stopped drinking it. The officer nodded, and then she glanced toward the door where the men had been taken. They told me to relax, she said quietly. They said I was imagining things. The officer wrote something down, slowly, carefully. The biker watched. He had seen this part before, how doubt creeps in after danger passes, how people second-guess themselves. The officer turned to him. You intervened? The biker nodded. I stayed, he said. That's all. The officer looked at him for a moment. That's usually enough, he replied. A quiet question for you at some point in life. Most of us are faced with a choice, to stay or to walk away. Not because we're cruel, but because staying feels uncomfortable. If you've ever walked away from something that didn't feel right, if you've ever wished you'd spoken up sooner, this is a safe place to admit it. Write it in the comments, not to be judged, but to be honest. The manager returned, his voice low. Officer, he said, we checked the cameras. The officer straightened, and the manager hesitated. The men weren't guests, he admitted. They'd been moving between tables, watching. That word hung heavy. Watching. The officer closed his notebook. We'll need their names, said. The girl closed her eyes. Briefly, her worst fear hadn't been the drink. It had been the thought that she was wrong, that she'd imagined it. The biker spoke quietly, not to the officer, but to her. You weren't, he said. She looked up at him. Tears welled, but didn't fall. I almost didn't say anything, she whispered. The biker nodded. Most people don't, he said. That's why this keeps happening. The officer approached again. Ma'am, he said, we're going to follow up on this. You did the right thing. She nodded. For the first time that night, her shoulders relaxed fully. The club was closing early. People filtered out quietly. No laughter now. No bravado. Just the sound of footsteps and doors opening. Outside, the air felt different. Cooler, cleaner. The girl stepped out with the paramedic. The biker followed a few paces behind. She stopped and turned to him. Why me? She asked suddenly. Why did you notice? He thought for a moment. Because once he said someone didn't notice me. She understood without asking more. Some lessons don't need explanation, if this story made you think. Of a moment you ignored, a feeling you pushed aside, a voice you didn't listen to. Say it. Type it out, because the only thing more dangerous than people who do harm is a world where no one admits they saw the signs. Your comment might be the reason Somion else pays attention next time. The biker walked away into the night. No applause. No thanks. Just the quiet knowledge that one decision had mattered, and somewhere inside that empty VIP section, the illusion of safety had finally been stripped away. The street outside the club was quieter than it had been all night. No music leaked through the doors now. No laughter, no pretending, just the soft hum of traffic and the distant sound of a city returning to itself. The biker stood near his motorcycle, adjusting his gloves slowly. There was no rush in him, there never was. Behind him, the girl stepped outside with the officer. She looked smaller in the open air, not weak, just human. The officer spoke gently. We'll be in touch, he said, and we'll follow through. She nodded. When the officer walked away, she stood there for a moment, unsure what to do next. The biker noticed. He turned. You'll get home all right? He asked. She hesitated, then nodded. My sister's coming, she said. I already called her. Good, he thought. Someone who cares. Someone who will listen. She looked at him carefully now, as if trying to memorize his face. You didn't even know me, she said. Why did you stay? The biker paused. This time the answer came easily, because I've lived long enough to know, he said, that most harm happens when good people decide it's not their problem. Her eyes filled, but she smiled faintly. They kept telling me I was overreacting. The biker nodded. They always do, he replied. That's how they keep people quiet. She looked back at the club doors. If you hadn't been there? He gently interrupted her. If you hadn't listened to yourself, he said, none of this would have stopped. She absorbed that, straightened for the first time that night. She looked steady. The biker mounted his motorcycle. The engine started with a low, familiar rumble. Before he pulled away, she asked one last question. What if no one had listened? He looked at her, his voice calm but firm. Then this story would have ended very differently, he said, and no one would have admitted they saw the signs. He rode off slowly. No spotlight followed him. No one clapped, and that was exactly how he preferred it. The club reopened. Days later, fresh lights, new music, but something had changed. Staff were more alert. Security watched more closely, and one empty table in the VIP section stayed unused for a long time. Because sometimes a place remembers. Final reflection for the listener: stories like this aren't about bikers. They're not about clubs. They're not even about drinks. They're about moments. Moments when something feels wrong, and we decide whether to listen. Most people in that room saw the same things he did. An untouched drink, a nervous laugh, a girl being told to relax. Only one person stayed, and one person spoke up. Now it's your turn. Have you ever felt something wasn't right, but told yourself you were imagining it? Have you ever stayed quiet and wished later that you hadn't? Write it in the comments. Not to explain, not to impress, just to be honest, because someone reading your words might recognize the signs next time, and that might be enough. The biker never came back to that club. He didn't need to. He left behind something far more important than a warning. He left behind awareness.